Let me show you guys some of my prototypes. So this guy right here, he is one of the 1982 Coleco prototypes. What they did is they took some of the soft sculptured kids, which are the soft face kids that were out first. They took them, they took a head, and they sent it to one of the doll designers, and they actually molded these plastic heads out of them. And he's super rare because he is the only black African-American Cabbage Patch prototype of that era known in the whole world. So I'm super excited to have him. And why I collect prototypes and hard to find stuff is because of the history. This is toy history right here. This caused a phenomena that nobody has seen in the toy collecting world in a long time. And just to know that you're holding that piece of toy history is amazing.
The toys that we love, the production toys that we love that ended up hitting toys shelves that we brought home, we played with. As an adult collector, there's always a intrigue of finding out what was the process from the start of the concept maybe in a toy designer's head to get it to that toy shelf.
So prototype is an artifact that was made as part of the development process of a toy.
This was actually my first Coleco prototype I received. She is one of the first from 1982 as well. I believe these prototypes were probably some of the ones that the artist at OAA used to send to Coleco to finalize on the final Cabbage Patch Kid.
The prototype collector today is really interested in that archaeology, kind of digging up some history and finding out what went into making that toy that they really enjoyed as a child.
There are times where you look at the back of the packaging now and you realize, oh, that figure never came out. Or did it? And now because of the internet, you can research, say, oh yeah, that toy never came out. And you look at yourself like, I wish I had that.
They've changed a lot, as you can actually see. They don't look like this. They actually ended up looking more like this. So you can see the difference. So this is a prototype, and then this is what actually went to market.
Because if you know the process of what it goes through to make a toy.
From early concept stages, sketches, paintings, drawings.
The wax sculpt of an action figure.
So you go through molds, you go through samples.
Or what's called a hard copy.
Packaging prototypes of design elements to be able to attract that attention of a child.
Test samples, first shot.
A layout of the packaging. So anything that sort of goes into making the toy before the toy goes on shelf.
There's a whole phase of evolution.
There's prototypes today that kind of tell that story, kind of tell that it's like a prequel to a great movie.
This is one of the first ones they marked up, and they used to also own the Care Bear license. So this box is a Care Bear box that they used and made into a Cabbage Patch Kid box for the prototype.
What do you do when you collect all of the production pieces that came out?
So these are My Little Pony prototypes. These are pre-production samples of ponies that were later created.
And if you want to be a prototype collector, you better have two things. You better have a little bit of money, and you better have a lot of patience.
I received them from former Hasbro designers.
A lot of times they go to a collector that isn't interested in reselling them.
Old employees have this stuff still.
Some of the toy designers, some of the ex-employees.
Did you have to retain any of your prototypes or any of your drawings, or did you have to turn all that back over to Hasbro?
No, I had a number of prototypes after I left Hasbro. Had a bunch of paint masters. I had paint masters. I had actual sculptural input. I had all kinds of stuff, but that has since gone. I sold most of that stuff way back then, about 15 years ago.
There's almost like a black market for toy collecting, and prototypes is a big part of that.
It's definitely a costly market.
It's such a massive market, and the competition is so fierce, and people have the blank checks to outbid you no matter what you do.
No prototypes. I got one prototype at home that Bill Young did, and it's meaningless, and it's just going to sit there and nobody's going to want it. So. It's only part of a. It's only part of a prototype. Yeah, oh, you're gonna look at it and say, "You kidding me?"
The scarcity of these things, a lot of them are one of a kind.
Because I've got in contact with the former creative designer of Palisades Toys. There were 3 people involved, and two president, vice president, and then the creative.
And things went through changes, so you could kind of see that evolutionary change from the first concept of a package or the first concept of a toy or an action figure to what actually was released.
He's verified for me that there were 2 or 3, he could not remember for sure, that came in as a stone crackle. They chose to go the painted route, the cartoon version. So that is what could have been mass produced out to the public, but ultimately not. That is the only one.
They might be one-of-a-kind items. It might be the only one that exists today of that item.
Yes, of this particular character, this is Snuzzle, and this is the only known prototype of this particular pony with the dots instead of hearts.
So to be able to get one, you have to have a little bit of luck, you have to have a little bit of patience, and you have to have a lot of extra disposable income.
Having prototypes of toys they never made for the vintage Star Wars line, it's like discovering all these toys that they were planning to do that they never made.
I had certain parameters I had to work. The engineers built what they call a buck that you sculpt over, and I can only draw to a certain line on the figure.
Well, you gotta remember, there's a different time we're talking, okay? This is 1982. So when you would walk into the R&D area, all right, in certain cubicles, you might see a Playboy calendar hanging on a wall, okay?
Not much.
Can't do that anymore, but this was back then. Ron loved to draw pretty girls. When we told him he had to come up with an idea for an enemy villainess.
Bad females, they round out the storyline as well.
He started sketching up some ideas for the Baroness. One of those in particular was an amazing rendering.
I don't want to embarrass him. Right, he did a wonderful thing, a picture of the Baroness, but he made Barbie look like a tiny girl. I mean, she was just built too strong.
It's only a couple of buttons, Hey, I have nothing to say.
And I thought myself, we can't do that. It's going to appeal. We have to have something that's appealing to girls as well. And even the boys, you can't do that.
We're designing toys for 8-year-old boys. So when Bob and I walked by Ron's desk and saw this, we said, Ron, we love it, but no mom in America is going to buy that for their 8-year-old boy.
And he shaved it. He did it better.
He shaved the Baroness.
The breasts, yeah. He did a beautiful job on it. It's just that the other one was too much.
So we covered her up. We turned her into the character that you see today.
The whole point of G.I. Joe was positive message was G.I. Joe, the real American hero. It was positive to start with.
Well, I think that was Ron's opposition to what we said. He said, okay, if you don't want to see anything, I'm going to cover her up. Totally.
So, how does it feel when you see cosplayers portraying those characters? They're a full grown-up man dressed as your creations. Yeah. I get a kick out of it, really. I mean, The first time I've seen the cosplayer was in Providence JoeCon, and it was Joe Colton. And if you know Joe Colton, she's a big time cosplayer, and she was dressed up as Scarlet. I said, damn, she's looking good. So, I think when they're, they dress up in some of the costumes, they look just pretty good, you know. There are baronesses everywhere. I see them everywhere. Tall ones, short ones, whatever. But,
hey, there
Joel,
he is.
what's
How you
going
doing?
on? Long time, my friend.
Nice
How's
to see
everything?
ya.
Get over here, man. Big hug.
Fantastic.
How's everything, man?
It's great, great.
Man, nice coming to your place, man.
Well, I tell you, it's been a long road, but we're finally here.
Yeah, wow, it's beautiful. I mean, the sights of this place, compared to your other
My little paradise.
Yeah, that little paradise was amazing. Hey, I'm here with some friends, and we want to, see your amazing collection of Disneyland.
Oh,
because
you'll love it.
I heard, and also online on YouTube, that you have the largest collection of Disneyland memorabilia in the United States and probably in the world. Am I correct?
I think so. I think I got a few surprises in mind for you. So,
Oh my God!
can't wait to show
awesome.
you.
Awesome. Let's
right, let's
get
do
in
it.
there, buddy.
Come on.
I'm anxious. Let's go. Thank
Come
you.
on in.
Wow, look at this. And what is that, Joel? What is that?
That's actually one of the soldiers from Babes in Toyland. That was a movie that starred Nat Funicello. And they actually put the set of that movie in Disneyland at the Opera House. And so all the visitors to Disneyland could actually walk through the whole set of Babes in Toyland. So it was really exciting.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Is that real wood?
It's amazing. It's actually, it's wood, it's tin, and believe it or not, this neck is a coffee can. If you look at the inside on the back, it's a coffee can. So I mean, back in the day when they were making sets for movies, they didn't have to get, all it needed to be was faraway shots. I mean, they literally just took scraps and pieces and made stuff, and literally in this case, right down to the coffee can for the neck. It was cheap, what the heck?
Yeah, they did it, but they did it.
Yeah, it looks good.
Wow. Oh, look at this. That is awesome. Yeah, you don't get to see that little Coca-Cola sign up there.
Yeah. That was again, I guess what I do is I save pieces of history. Everything here has a story behind it, and that Coca-Cola sign, it's amazing. If you look at this, it looks brand new.
Yes,
I mean,
100%.
you cannot see a single flaw in this sign. And amazingly enough, this sat on the side of a building for almost 50 years. It was in Sioux City, Iowa it was called the Jungle Lounge. And
50 years
50
in that
years.
condition?
And this was made of porcelain, and it never got touched as far as, kids were always throwing rocks at stuff. It was a great target, but this was like the ultimate survivor. I actually personally took this off the building when they closed. Progress came and they tore the building down, and I had been hounding the owner for years about these signs. There was actually 4 of them, and this was the nicest one. And he finally said, "Today's your lucky day. People have been bugging me for years on this, but the property's sold, and if you can take them down, we'll make a deal." And so it was a little scary. I had to climb up on a ladder about 30 feet in the air, which is probably why it survived so nice. But I got it down. And I didn't get killed doing it.
At the right
at
time,
the right
right?
time. But
Yeah.
I've found out, in this business, you just have to be persistent. I mean,
100%.
So
Holy smokes.
persistence pays.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Now, what other rooms do you have over here?
Well, let's take a look actually here. We'll
Thank you.
start with our Disney piece. This is actually
Oh, wow.
one of the all-time favorites. If you like Peter Pan, then you'll love this,
look at
because this is
this.
actually the original Peter Pan ship from Disneyland that came out in 1955. This was actually one of the original 12 ships that was in Disneyland. And we actually have the original Tinkerbell flying over it. She was in the park too, but this was actually the pirate ship. It was actually the only ship that had the skull and crossbones on it. And there's actually pictures of Disney in this ship. So there was only one of them. So we assume that Disney actually sat in this ship.
Wow, this is a beauty.
Yeah. So It's very exciting to have this.
And this over here, it's really, really nice. Look
Yeah,
at
this is my poster collection for the theater room. These are all original posters. That actually is the feature piece. That's an original Creature from the Black Lagoon poster. And most people would say Star Wars is the ultimate. That's actually one of the original Star Wars lobby cards from 1977. And then over here we go into the into our kind of slash office toy room.
Hey, what's going on? I came as soon as I could.
Oh, hey Lee, we got a very rare chance here. We're gonna open a sealed Kenner. We're hoping it's Kenner. It doesn't say anything. We're gonna open a sealed case of what we believe is Indiana Jones figures.
Wow.
So, I want you to witness this.
All right, no problem.
If it is what we think it is, we're only going by this little number on the box. We looked up the assortment number. It's stating it's a 1982 Indiana Jones Kenner case of 48.
Wow, but who knows? It's unmarked.
Correct. Have you ever, in your experience, how much experience do you have with grading toys?
In 10 years of grading, I've never seen an unmarked box, let alone 35 years old, still sealed. I mean, it's almost as old as me. Yeah, that's a very, very rare find.
This is actually all the favorite toys from my childhood that I either had or I wanted to have.
Look at this. Look at the
Evel Knievel.
Batman. Look at, oh my God, I had this one right here.
Yeah, this is the
my
original.
place that I had right here.
1967. This
this is
was
beautiful.
the Justice League of America playset. And
I played with that Batman so much. Robin, oh my God. Because that's, back in the days, like I was, telling my girlfriend Vicky, the toys from Marx and everything, they were hard plastic.
Oh yeah.
They didn't move, I mean, remember Captain America with the shield, with the shield like this.
You had to use your imagination with these.
Quite a bit. And Joel, when did you start collecting?
About 30 years ago. Actually, it all started with this guy right here. This was the beginning of everything. I was at a flea market in Sioux City, Iowa. And I didn't really want to be there. It's like, I was looking at a bunch of clothing and somebody drugged me there. But across the room, I saw it and I'm like, oh my God, I remember that was my lunchbox when I was a kid. And I ran across the room, I picked it up, and literally a flood of memories came in my mind instantly. It was almost like I was transported through the toy time tunnel. I mean, Crescent Park Elementary. I remember sitting in the lunchroom, having my ham and cheese sandwich with mayonnaise, no pickles. My mom wouldn't give me pickles. And it's like all of a sudden I started remembering other toys that I had, and my mom actually took pictures of us with our toys for Christmas and our birthday, so I actually made her go dig out all the albums, and so I could actually, this is another one here, I slowly have been completing my toy collection that I had from all those pictures, and it's been a mission ever since. And along the way, somehow it got bigger and bigger. It wasn't just me looking for my toys. All of a sudden, everybody wanted me looking for their toys, and the rest is history.
Wow, that is awesome.
So for 30 years, I'm finding everybody's toys for everyone.
Yeah, you've been doing a very good job at that too. Basic Discovery set.
And the Agent, this was actually one of my favorite toys also when I was a kid. This was my Agent 0M radio rifle. It would look like a radio and it would flip open. It had spring-loaded action. It would be a rifle.
No.
Maybe not so politically correct nowadays, but that was sure fun back in the day. But actually my favorite toy of all these right here, believe it or not, is Tabitha. And that's the only known example that anybody's ever heard of still in the original box. If you look at it, it looks like she's floating. Of course, she was a witch. You got Darren and Samantha and Endora on each side of her, but just an incredible piece of television history. And again, there's been no other example known to exist in the box, and that's it.
That's incredible. Look at these over here. What?
Yeah, this is actually my overflow. I ran out of space, and my newest acquisition, which is actually this Thingmaker set right here. This I just got last week.
Creepy crawlers, yeah.
Creepy crawlers, and this is what I played with when I was a kid. But there's a story behind this one. This one actually was owned by Johnny Crawford, who played the rifleman's son on The Rifleman. And he was given, along with a lot of the other children that played on TV shows back in the days, all kinds of toys. All the toy companies wanted to give him toys because they were hoping that they would promote him somehow. And This actually came from one of his family members, and they got so many toys they just piled them up and never used them, and that was one of them. So, every story has a piece of history behind it.
Yep, that's the Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Wow, and getting to see them both.
The deluxe set, which again, that's the only known example that we've ever found.
I've never seen one box.
No. So you never know what you're going to stumble across.
I've seen
as
those
a Toy
boxes.
Scout.
I've seen those, yeah, but Lost in Space?
Yep, that's the Lost in Space rotojet gun. That actually is mint sealed, never opened, and we actually had that graded and encased. 30-year process here.
And $6 million man.
Yeah, and that actually was signed by Lee Majors on there. There's actually a video of him signing that doll. We should say action figure.
Yeah, this is. I mean, I'm here and I'm like in heaven, 60s heaven and 70s. Wow. And which is your major collection? I mean, besides all of this, what do you specialize in?
Well, I'll take you there next, but my creme de la creme, as they say, is Disneyland. And I'm going to show you something that will surprise you.
We're not sure what's
in the box.
It could be anything in there. I mean, if the customer sent it in, they said they think it's an Indiana Jones 1982 Kenner product, but until we open it, there's a couple of variables. We don't know what's actually in it. We don't know what the assortment numbers are. Of each character, and we don't know the condition that it may be inside. I mean, is it still intact? Are they still in good condition?
Well, let's check the seams first real quick and make sure that it is still sealed.
Excellent.
Let's just have a look at the underside of it. Oh yeah, still sealed. Tape is nice and tight, a little discolored. Box is a bit dusty. That looks good.
It's a little yellowing, right? The tape's a little yellowing, so it shows its age.
Absolutely.
You see any water damage or anything on the box?
Box looks excellent. I don't see any damage. There's no hits on the corners, so whatever's in it should be very clean. Let's have a look.
Let me show you the toy prototype room. This room consists of prototypes from Kenner's Star Wars Vintage line. And so a lot of this stuff are items that were never sold in stores. So some of the highlights are these 12-inch action figures. None of these were ever made. These were designed by Kenner to come out with The Empire Strikes Back, and there were going to be several new outfits for Han, Luke, and Leia, but they didn't make those. They didn't make the packaging, and then they had new outfits for Luke and Leia, not released in stores. And similarly, like these play sets here from the micro collection, these are concept prototypes. They never made those things. And then they have action figures from the Droids and Ewoks cartoon. None of these were ever released. So a lot of the toy prototypes, it's unreleased toys. And then there are also examples here of things that show the production process of a toy. For example, in the corner here are a bunch of prototypes of the coins that came with the action figures. And so these things include like artwork, sculpts of the coins, and different castings at a larger scale down to the coin dies that were used to strike the coins. And then I have more toy prototypes here. Things like these are some like preschool toys that they never released from Kenner, and they were just a concept that they made one-of-a-kind prototypes of, and they chose not to release those. And so that's just sort of a sample of some of the things in here. But to a lot of advanced collectors, this is like one of their favorite rooms because it lets you glimpse into what would have happened with the vintage Star Wars toy line had they continued to keep releasing more toys.
What about the tape, though? I mean, has it been slid open or double taped in any way?
Absolutely not. This is a single piece of tape down the entire length on both sides. It's got a little additional tape on the bottom.
Let's flip it over and see what the other side looks like gently.
Probably this was an afterthought to keep the tape together, but this all looks very good. It's very intact and nice and clean. It's never been lifted.
It's amazing that there's no corner dings either, like it was dropped or kicked around wherever it was stored.
And I'm going to show you something that will surprise you. So let's go take a look. It's behind the magic door here.
All right.
Probably won't believe this, but here it is, my own piece of Disneyland.
Holy smoke.
And these are all original props used in the park. This actually was from the small world. We actually put it and reanimated it. This was, as you look at the front of the facade, you'll see the twirling flowers on the front.
And what is this over here? What's this? What is this?
This is actually the cockpit from the monorail from Disney World when they first put the monorail in. You can actually hear yourself going to the next stop, which is the Contemporary Resort Hotel.
Yes.
Is next on our stop, and the Magic Kingdom. So
that is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's really exciting. You know, they obviously cut these all up. For somebody to be able to take this out and preserve it was absolutely incredible. So
yeah, you're not kidding. And this over here?
This is a model of the Matterhorn from 1959, and you'll see that's about as realistic as it gets.
Yeah, this is beautiful.
And, we've actually got a ride from Snow White ride vehicle. This particular one is Bashful. Lots of great memories going through Snow White's Wild Adventure. They actually took that one out at Disney World, so it's not there anymore. How sad that is.
Is that who I see it? Is that Kennedy?
Yeah, that's actually from the Hall of Presidents at Disney World, and that's one of the actual prototypes to make the figure. Wow. And yeah, very, very tough piece to find. Okay, so this is actually the collection of posters that were made for the park back in the 1950s and 60s. They were actually silk screened. They were very, very difficult to make, but Walt had exacting standards. The colors are just incredible, but this is the actual only known complete collection in the world. So they actually had a complaint, I think it was from TWA. They had a jet liner called the Astrojet, and so they made them change the name on it, so it was actually called Jet. So I actually have a second version of that where all they did was just basically cover it up with paint and re-stencil it in there. So, but yeah, this is
this is really nice.
The culmination of 30 years worth of work. But basically, everybody says, well, how did you get stuck on Disneyland? I'll tell you what happened is I never got to go to the park back when I was a child, and I grew up though in Disneyland. Everybody says, well, what do you mean you grew up in Disneyland? I watched Uncle Walt Disney, every Sunday night on the Wonderful World of Disney.
7 o'clock.
And so he would show us every so many weeks the progress of the park and different specials at the park. So I mean, as we progressed, I literally kept up with everything. I could tell you where everything was in that park, but yet I was never there. So basically, I went to the park in 1982. I remember that was after I graduated from high school, but I was devastated because they ripped out all of Fantasyland. What happened is the park was getting very congested. They needed to move things around and redo it. And so it actually turned out to be a good thing. But back then, when that was my first trip, I rode the Skyway buckets, and here it was. All the castle was ripped to pieces, and all the rides were gone in Fantasyland. But now they're all back, so that's all good.
Great, yeah, that's phenomenal. Now, this one over here.
Yes, when you go into the Haunted Mansion, you see the stretching room. When you first walk in there, this is all you see.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, the room starts stretching, and it gets longer and longer, until finally you see the end result here. And this is one of the original stretch paintings from the Haunted Mansion. You can see back in the day, it's still on canvas, a little frayed around the edges. You can still see the markings where it hung. But this was actually hand painted, and just extremely, extremely hard to find. Anyway, so this was actually one of my favorite pieces. It's hard with so many of them to keep picking out my favorite pieces, but
now, from
that
your
would qualify.
posters, which is the rarest one you have here?
The rarest poster is the Casa de Fritos poster, and this poster was. There's only one other example known to exist of it, and that one is in horrible condition. And this one's actually pristine mint. Fortunately, somebody saved it back when they first made the poster, but it was a very short-lived restaurant at Disneyland, and so very few of them were made, and this is a survivor. Yeah.
Joel, and what's the story behind this baby right here? This beauty?
This is an original model from Tomorrowland, and when they first made the park, or the addition to the park, they changed it and called it the New Tomorrowland in 1967. So they made a mock-up, which was very intricately done. I mean, you can literally pan in close here and feel like you're actually part of the park. That's an incredible piece of park history.
Yeah, this is. I mean, I've never seen anything like this at all. And
Yeah,
all.
you won't ever again.
No, I believe that. And what are those over here? What's this over here?
This is one of the original Autopia cars from the from about 1962 to 1967. This one ran, and then they went with the new Corvette Stingray style in 1968. Because this was kind of starting to look a little dated, and so they had to make it look a little bit more modern. And this is actually an original Ratty from Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. So this one actually is hand fabricated. Everything is handmade. I mean, this is all metal that was hand forged, hand pounded.
And hold on, and look at this. Look at this.
This I would actually have to say is the favorite of all favorites. This is the Hitchhiking Ghosts from Disney World. These were actually the ghosts. There was mirrors. They weren't sitting like this, but when you came to the end of the ride, you saw these doom buggies with these ghosts in them that were riding with you. These were actually in a separate room, but they were projected to look like they were sitting with you. And they took them out, and fortunately, a couple of them were saved. And I actually was able to put the set back together and get all three of them. And we have them in their crypt and their tomb, so they're happy haunts again.
Yeah, I bet. Wow, this is beautiful. And look at this right over here.
Yeah, that's a devil from Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. This is an original devil. Actually, we got two of them guarding the hitchhiking ghosts, so don't get too close.
Yeah. Now, this over here, I see Walt Disney down here. Okay.
This was actually, if you look at the picture, Walt is holding on to this piece right here, and they would take this and clip this to whatever microphone he was talking at, and that actually was from Disneyland, and that was specially done for Walt. And this actually was used when he gave his speech, one of his last speeches on the 10th anniversary of Disneyland in 1966 before he died. So literally this is one of the last pieces in the park that he probably actually handled, and that we actually have a picture of. Before he passed away in 1966, unfortunately.
My goodness, that is awesome. Now, one last thing. This wall, just this wall that you have here, what is the story behind this entire wall?
Well, this wall here kind of goes along with my business, being the Toy Scout. And these are actually all toys only, that were sold at the park. Of course, if you go to the park today, you see all kinds of souvenirs, but these specifically are all from the 1950s through the early to mid 70s, nothing newer than that.
I mean, this is the ultimate, Disney collection I have ever seen, and I don't think I'll ever run into anything like this again. And I definitely want to thank you for your time and courtesy and having me come over here and share this experience with you, Joel.
Great, I'm glad you came out.
Yeah, man.
It was fun.
Thank you.
Right.
Awesome, brother.
What's the story with this? Where'd it come from?
Well, the customer that sent this in, it's a very interesting story. He said he met up with a Franciscan monk in New Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah, and he had a contact in Cincinnati. Back in 1982, he got a lot of Kenner products shipped to them, and never been touched, never been opened. I don't know what they got them for, or what the intention was to do with them, if they're going to be given away, or what the monks were planning to do with them.
So this is unusual.
This is unusual. And we're just
big question on what it could be. Whatever's in it is going to be extremely rare, as it will be an uncirculated item.
Correct. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do with this today. We're going to designate it uncirculated, and I want you to witness me opening it up, and we're going to take a look and see what's inside.
Let's get busy.
Excellent. All right, let me get my handy cutter out.
Let's be careful not to put too much pressure on the top so we don't damage whatever's inside.
Let's take a look at this.
Please.
Let's open these ends first very carefully. This is really hard to do, Lee. I mean, this is if this is what we think it is, this is 1982, never opened since it was produced and manufactured.
It's a wonderful thing that people will get to enjoy these items again that were stored away for all those years.
All right, let's try it again.
All right.
All right, there's one side. Let's turn her around. All right, right, so now here's the ends are open. So now, yeah, if we could just lift it up a little bit so I don't, I want to make sure I don't
cut my finger.
Cut in too deep. Oh, there's a little, let's do it this way. Cleanly cut this. This is some brittle tape, which it should be after 35 years. Let's not go too deep. We'll arch it up to make sure that everything inside is in perfect condition.
All right.
Well,
moment of truth.
This is the moment of truth. Let's see what's in it. Let's see what condition it's in. Let's see what the what characters are in here and how many of each.
Let's have a look.
Let's take a look at that. Wow, this is tight. You can tell this has never been opened.
Wow.
Whew.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it's a work in progress. Some I'm gonna get lightened up and get over again because I just changed my mind on things. You know, Star Wars. I love Star Wars, as we know. So there's Yoda and Vader looking over him. I have my lightsabers on my fingers. Skeletor, Evil Lyn, little dark side of He-Man. I love. I have some Transformers here that I was gonna finish, but I'm changing that. Optimus Prime, the Turtles, Xavier Roberts, the creator of the Cabbage Patch Kids, and Cabbage Patch Kids up on top, and Xavier Roberts' real signature up there. You can check that out on YouTube. Yeah, that's it. I love tattoos, and my toys mean a lot to me, so I want to express them on myself as well.